Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're becoming linguistic detectives. We're going to uncover the absolute fundamental building blocks of how things happen. Think about it. If you've ever misinterpreted a professional email, struggled to parse a dense legal contract, or just found yourself totally lost in a complex text, well, you know that missing the core logic of a situation can literally lead to catastrophic miscommunications. So let's master the hidden mechanics of language that prevent those exact errors.
Now, every great investigation has to start with a single burning question, right? And that is, why did this event actually take place? The human brain is completely hardwired to seek out patterns. We absolutely crave motive. We desperately want to know the reasons behind the events unfolding around us. This single question is literally the foundation of critical thinking, scientific inquiry, and honestly, just our basic understanding of the world. Finding that elusive why is always our primary mission.
But here's the thing. That motive, it's only half the story. That first question has to be closely followed by a second, equally crucial question to totally set the scene. What exactly was the result? Let's use a detective analogy here. If the why is the hidden motive behind a crime, well, the what is the physical crime scene itself. You really need those tangible, undeniable facts at the aftermath to anchor your theory. You just can't fully grasp the motive unless you have a crystal clear picture of the outcome. So, to decode these mysteries, we're going to look closely at two grammatical concepts that essentially act as the structural glue of reality: cause and effect. Language is ultimately just a tool, right? It's a tool we use to capture the intricate, moving mechanics of the physical world around us. And these two concepts, they are the master gears driving that entire machinery. Let's dig into exactly how they operate. Okay, let's dive right into our core terms, starting with the instigator. A cause is the true reason why something happens. But don't just think of it as a boring dictionary definition. Think of it as the catalyst. It's that hidden spark that ignites absolutely everything that follows. Mastering the ability to quickly identify this spark is, for sure, the ultimate shortcut to dissecting incredibly complex arguments, whether you're reading a political manifesto or just a dense quarterly business report. And on the other side of that equation, we have the effect. If the cause is the hidden spark, the effect is the raging fire we can actually see. It's the visible outcome, the condition, or the tangible occurrence that was ultimately produced by that initial catalyst. It directly answers that question of what happened, giving us the concrete aftermath we actually have to deal with in reality. So the absolutely crucial point here is that you can always untangle the two by relying on these straightforward questions. You ask why to locate the catalyst, and you ask what to identify the aftermath. And look, this isn't just about passing a grammar test. Keeping these two questions at the very forefront of your mind is a high-level mental framework. It lets you cut right through the noise of dense information, strip away all the fluff, and focus purely on the structural logic of an argument. Now, before we look at how language actually handles this, we need to establish a foundational law of physics. Out in the real, physical world, there is an absolute, undeniable rule of time. The cause always has to happen first, and the effect happens next. Imagine you knock a glass off at the kitchen table. The push happens first, then gravity takes over. And finally, a few seconds later, the shattering happens second. The timeline in reality is always strictly linear. But here is the plot twist that makes reading comprehension such a fascinating challenge. Authors are essentially time travelers. When they write these events down, they do not have to follow the rigid laws of physics. They can bend the timeline to manipulate your focus. A writer might actually start a paragraph by describing the shattered glass on the floor and only later reveal that someone pushed it. They can completely invert reality just to build suspense or emphasize a specific point. So, how do we navigate this when we literally can't rely on the linear order of the sentence? Well, to solve this, we need to look for the author's fingerprints. We need the structural blueprints that reveal how a sentence is engineered, which we call transitional words. These are the deliberate signposts left behind in the text to help us reconstruct the true timeline. These transitional words act as the vital linguistic bridges connecting the catalyst to the aftermath. Rather than just memorizing a giant list, think about how they actually function. Words like since, because, and due to are your immediate red flags that a hidden motive or cause is about to be revealed. On the flip side, words like therefore, consequently, or thus are giant neon signs pointing straight to the aftermath. Spotting these bridges instantly unlocks the underlying logic, no matter how convoluted the sentence actually is.
All right, let's look at some case studies in action.
Here is our first scenario. Heavy rain lasted for 2 hours, so the streets were flooded. Now, before we break it down, take a second and just listen closely to the mechanics of this sentence. See if you can mentally isolate the catalyst, the bridge, and the aftermath.
Notice how reality and grammar align perfectly here. The heavy rain falls, that's our catalyst, our why. We then hit our linguistic bridge, the simple but really powerful word so. And finally, we arrive at the soaked aftermath, which is the flooded streets. In this specific case, the author chose to be totally straightforward. The sentence order perfectly matches the linear timeline of the real, physical world.
Now let's examine our second scenario. Hannah went to the doctor because she was not feeling well. Think about what actually happened first in reality, and then compare that to the structural order of the words we just read.
See, the author has completely flipped the timeline on us. The aftermath, Hannah going to the doctor, is actually presented to us first. Then, our structural blueprint, the word because, acts as this backward-pointing arrow, linking us to the true cause, her not feeling well. She felt sick first, which caused her to go to the doctor second, but the grammar, it runs in reverse. Missing this backward-pointing arrow in a highly complex document or, say, a legal contract would completely scramble your understanding of the events.
Ultimately, mastering this concept doesn't just make you a better reader, it literally gives you an immunity to being misled by tricky rhetoric or cleverly structured arguments. Armed with an understanding of these transitional blueprints, you can map out the logic of absolutely any text. So, I'll leave you with this. If authors can manipulate time and reality with a single transitional word, what else are they hiding in plain sight? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep interrogating the text.